The rain-slicked streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium lights like veins pulsing with unspoken regrets. And I stood there, drenched to the bone, watching Wyatt's taillights vanish into the fog. His last words echoed in my skull sharper than the thunder cracking overhead. This was never real, Aiden. It was just business. But as the downpour blurred my vision, I clutched the crumpled contract in my fist, the one that had bound us for 3 years, and realized the ink had long since bled into something dangerously close to love. I first met Wyatt Kane on a crisp September afternoon in 2021, the kind where the University of Washington campus buzzed with that electric hum of new beginnings. I was 19, fresh off a Greyhound bus from the jagged shores of Bar Harbor, Maine, hauling a duffel bag stuffed with flannel shirts and dog-eared copies of Kerouac. Aiden Harper, small-town kid with a scholarship in creative writing and a secret that weighed heavier than my student loans. Being gay in a family that still hung faded photos of my lobsterman dad next to Bible verses. Seattle seemed like salvation. Gray skies that mirrored my moods, coffee shops that never closed, and anonymity in a sea of flannel-clad strangers. The creative writing seminar was in a creaky old building on the edge of campus. All exposed brick and the faint scent of old books mingling with rain-damp wool. Professor Ellis droned on about voice and vulnerability, but my eyes snagged on the guy in the back row, legs stretched out like he owned the place. Wyatt Kane, 21, heir to some tech fortune out of Silicon Valley transplants who'd struck gold in cloud computing. He had that effortless California polish. Sun-kissed skin a shade warmer than mine, dark hair cropped close with a fade that screamed high-end barber, and green eyes that scanned the room like he was appraising stocks. He slouched in his chair, scribbling notes on a leather-bound journal that probably cost more than my monthly rent. But there was a tension in his jaw, a flicker in his gaze that said he wasn't as untouchable as he looked. Our paths crossed properly after class, when I tripped over my own untied bootlace outside the lecture hall, spilling my notebook across the wet pavement. Pages fluttered like wounded birds, half-formed poems about ocean swells and hidden longings. I cursed under my breath, scrambling to gather them, when a pair of polished loafers stopped inches from my hand. "Need a hand, poet?" His voice was low, laced with that West Coast drawl, smooth as aged bourbon. I looked up, and there he was, crouching down with a half-smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Wyatt Kane, extending a manicured hand to salvage my mess. We knelt there in the drizzle, our fingers brushing as we stacked soggy pages, and for a split second, the world narrowed to the warmth of his skin against mine. "Aiden?" I mumbled, heat creeping up my neck. "Harper." "Wyatt." He handed me the last sheet, his thumb lingering just a beat too long. "These are good, bro. You ever think about publishing?" I laughed it off, nerves twisting in my gut. "Nah, just scribbles. Therapy on paper." That should have been it, a fleeting campus flirtation. But Wyatt had other plans. 2 weeks later, he cornered me in the quad, under a canopy of dripping maples that turned the ground to a mosaic of red and gold. He was pacing, phone clutched like a lifeline, his usual cool frayed at the edges. "Listen, Aiden, this is gonna sound insane, but I need a favor. A big one." We ended up in a corner booth at a dive bar off University Avenue, the kind with sticky tables and neon signs buzzing like trapped flies. He slid a folder across the scarred wood. A contract, typed on crisp letterhead from some downtown law firm. My family's old money, tech royalty. Dad's on the board of half the startups in the Bay Area. Mom's the socialite who lunches with senators. They expect me to play the part straight-A golden boy, future CEO, and yeah, the whole hetero facade. Girlfriend by junior year, marriage track postgrad. I sipped my cheap IPA, the bitterness grounding me as his words sank in. And I'm not that guy." He leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper that carried the weight of a lifetime's secrets. "I'm gay, Aiden. Have been since I could name it. But coming out is career suicide, family exile, so I need cover. Someone to pose as my boyfriend for the next 3 years. Events, holidays, the works. I'll pay you $20,000 a year, plus expenses." Room and board if you want it. I've got a place off campus in Capitol Hill. My heart hammered, a cocktail of thrill and terror. This was every queer kid's forbidden dream, paid to love or at least pretend. But his eyes, those sharp green shards, held something deeper, a plea wrapped in pragmatism. Why me? I asked, flipping through the pages. NDAs, boundaries, exit clauses. Because you're real, he said simply. Not some actor who'd flake. And those poems? They get it. The hiding. I signed that night, pen scratching like a pact with the devil. Or maybe an angel. We shook on it, his grip firm, lingering. To the show! He toasted with his untouched whiskey. The first months blurred into a rhythm of deception and discovery. Publicly, we were the perfect couple. Wyatt Kane and his brooding main writer, strolling hand in hand through Pike Place Market, stealing kisses under the Space Needle's glow. He'd pull me into photo ops at alumni galas, his arms slung possessively around my waist, whispering stock tips in my ear to sell the intimacy. Privately, boundaries held firm. No sleepovers, no real touches beyond the script. I'd crash on the futon in his sleek loft, a minimalist palace of glass walls and Eames chairs overlooking the Puget Sound, but always with a pillow wall between us. Yet cracks formed early. Late-night study sessions devolved into confessions over takeout pho from the Vietnamese spot on Broadway. He'd talk about his childhood in Palo Alto estates, summers in Tahoe where he'd sneak glances at the lifeguards instead of the girls his mom paraded. I'd share stories of fog-shrouded Maine mornings, hauling traps with Dad while dreaming of boys in the boathouse. Laughter came easy, then silences heavy with what-ifs. One night, after a brutal family Zoom where his mother grilled him about settling down, he cracked. We were on the balcony, city lights smearing the horizon like a Van Gogh fever dream. Rain pattered on the awning, a soft percussion to his unraveling. They don't know me, Aiden. Not the real me. His voice broke, and without thinking, I pulled him into a hug, real, unscripted. His body tensed, then melted against mine, breath hot against my neck. We stood like that until the storm passed, the line between contract and craving blurring in the downpour. By winter quarter, the pretense seeped into truth. We'd steal moments in hidden corners, a brush of fingers in the stacks of the Sazalo library, knees knocking under seminar tables. Sex came tentatively, one fumbling night after a frat party where the beer flowed and inhibitions drowned. His loft, candlelight flickering off exposed beams, our bodies colliding like waves on rocky shores. Urgent, reverent, a revelation. This is us, he murmured into my skin, and for the first time, I believed it. But shadows loomed. His phone buzzed incessantly with texts from cousins, who were really PIs, family spies sniffing for cracks. My own doubts gnawed. Was I just the hired heart, or something more? Spring break hit like a gut punch. He jetted to Napa for family obligations, leaving me in the empty loft with a fridge full of craft IPAs and echoes. I wandered Capitol Hill alone, neon signs from queer bars winking invitations I ignored, journaling feverishly about the ache of almost love. When he returned, tanned and distant, the contract felt like chains. We need to amp it up, he said over dinner at a waterfront bistro, forks clinking against plates of cedar plank salmon. Dad's hosting a retreat in the Cascades next month. All the execs, potential investors. You in. Always I was in. Deeper with every yes. Summer unfurled in a haze of internships and stolen weekends. I clerked at an indie bookstore in Fremont, shelving Queer Lit between shifts, while Wyatt interned remotely for his father's firm. Code reviews laced with passive-aggressive emails about image. We escaped to the San Juan Islands once, ferrying over with a cooler of microbrews and a tent pitched on a bluff overlooking the Salish Sea. No cameras, no scripts, just us. Bonfires crackling, his head on my lap as I read aloud from my latest draft. A novella about two boys bound by secrets. He traced patterns on my thigh, eyes reflecting the flames. This could be our story, he whispered. It was until it wasn't. August brought the first fracture. A tabloid whisper, some society page blurb about Wyatt's mysterious beau, and suddenly, his world tightened. Keep it low-key, he urged, pulling back from public PDAs. I nodded, swallowing the sting, but the distance grew. Nights alone multiplied, my poems turning sharper, laced with unspoken accusations. Sophomore year dawned with a fragile truce. We threw ourselves into routines. Morning runs along the Burke-Gilman Trail, fog clinging to evergreens like regrets. Afternoons in coffee-fueled writing marathons at his place. Intimacy reignited in fits and starts. Lazy Sundays tangled in Egyptian cotton sheets. His laughter vibrating against my chest as we binge-watched old noir films. He opened up about the fear, disinheritance, the empire crumbling if he dared authenticity. You're my anchor, aid, he'd say, fingers interlaced. And God, I wanted to believe it. But the contract's expiration loomed like a guillotine, 3 years, ticking down. Holidays tested us. Thanksgiving in a sterile hotel suite to dodge family probes. Christmas cards posed in front of a rented tree. New Year's Eve 2022, we rang in the year on a rooftop bar in Belltown. Fireworks exploding over Elliott Bay. He kissed me at midnight, deep and desperate, tasting of champagne and promise. To us, he toasted. The word hung, fragile as spun glass. Then came the betrayal's first whisper. Early spring, an envelope arrived at the loft. Anonymous, postmarked from San Francisco. Inside photos, us candid shots from that San Juan trip. Grainy but damning. Wyatt's hand on my hip, my lips on his neck. A note scrawled in block letters. Family knows. End it or we expose. Wyatt's face drained of color as he read it. It's nothing, he lied, crumpling the evidence. But the shift was seismic. He canceled plans, buried himself in work, our touches turning perfunctory. I confronted him one rain-lashed evening, voice cracking in the kitchen's sterile light. What's going on, Wyatt? Talk to me. He paced, shadows carving hollows under his eyes. It's complicated. Trust me. Trust. The word soured on my tongue. That night, we fought. Raw, ugly words hurled like shrapnel. Am I just the prop now? The disposable queer to keep your secrets? Tears burned my eyes, hot and accusatory. He stopped, reaching for me, but I flinched. You're more. You have to know that. Did I? The doubt festered, a slow poison. Classes blurred into numbness. My writing stalled, pages blank as my heart. Friends noticed. My roommate in the dorms I'd abandoned for his loft, a theater kid named Finn with a nose for drama, pulled me aside after a party. Dude, you look wrecked. What's Kane done? Nothing, I muttered, nursing a solo cup of spiked punch. But Finn's eyes narrowed, wise beyond his years. Lies don't suit you, Harper. By May, the strain showed in fractures. Missed calls, curt texts. The retreat in the Cascades became our Hail Mary. A weekend in a cedar lodge nestled in evergreens, surrounded by suited sharks and small talk. I played the part flawlessly. Charming anecdotes about Maine winters, toasts to Wyatt's brilliance. But at night, in our assigned cabin, he turned away, feigning sleep. The bed yawned between us, vast as the chasm growing in my chest. The breaking point came on the last morning, mist cloaking the peaks like a shroud. Over coffee on the deck, his father, a silver-haired titan in khakis, clapped Wyatt on the back. Proud of you, son. And this one's a keeper. His nod to me was appraising, oblivious. Wyatt forced a smile, but his grip on my knee under the table was white-knuckled. Later, hiking a trail slick with dew, he exploded. They love you, Aid. More than me, sometimes. The perfect cover. I halted, breath fogging in the chill. Is that all I am? Still, his silence was answer enough. We returned to Seattle fractured. The contract's end date circled in red on my calendar. August 2024. 3 years. A lifetime in dog years. Summer sophomore year dragged, heavy with unspoken ends. I sublet a room in a Queen and Victorian, reclaiming space while Wyatt retreated to his loft's isolation. We met sporadically, awkward coffees where conversation skirted the heart. My novella took shape in those lonely hours, characters mirroring us. A boy from the edges, loving a golden cage. Then the call that shattered it all. Late July, phone buzzing at 2 a.m. Wyatt's voice, slurred with bourbon and something darker. "Aid, come over, please." I went against every instinct. The loft reeked of spilled scotch and despair. He was a wreck, shirt unbuttoned, eyes bloodshot, pacing like a caged panther. They found out. The photos. It was my sister. Jealous bitch. Always hated the fag rumors. He laughed, bitter and broken. Dad cut me off. No trust fund, no job. Said I could come crawling back if I fixed it. My stomach twisted. Wyatt. He grabbed my arms, desperation etching his features. Run away with me. Fuck the contract. We start over, Portland, maybe, or back to your Maine. Anything but this. For a heartbeat I saw it. Us free. But the lie in his eyes, the flicker of calculation, held me back. Is this real? Or just another deal? He released me, deflating. I don't know anymore. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving. I left him there, the door clicking shut like finality. Classes resumed, a numb autopilot. Whispers followed, canes out. Broke up with that writer kid. Finn dragged me to bars, to open mics where I read poems that bled truth. Catharsis in front of strangers who clapped like they understood. Wyatt vanished, rumors of a gap year, a family intervention. The contract, shredded in a fit of rage, ashes scattered in the sound. 3 years reduced to embers. But endings, I've learned, are just poorly lit beginnings. Fall leaves turned, and with them, a quiet resolve. I submitted my novella to a campus contest, Tides of Contract, and it placed, a small victory that tasted like salt and freedom. Therapy sessions in the student health center unpacked the layers. The boy who'd signed for survival, the man emerging from love's wreckage. Winter solstice brought a postcard from Tahoe, Wyatt's scrawl simple. Miss the rain. Miss you. W. I burned it, but not before tracing the words, a ghost of warmth in the chill. Junior year dawned brighter. Seattle's perpetual drizzle a baptism. I dated casually. A barista named Miles with tattoos like stories, easy laughs over lattes. No contracts, just honesty. My writing flowed, professors praising the depth, the heart. Yet Wyatt lingered, a specter in quiet moments, until spring when he reappeared, not as the polished air, but a shadow of him, leaner, eyes haunted. We crossed paths at a lit reading in the Henry Art Gallery, my voice steady as I recited lines about betrayal's sting. He approached after, tentative. Aid, you were incredible. Thanks. Neutral, armored. Can we talk? Coffee? Against better judgment, yes. At a hole in the wall on Capitol Hill, steam rising from mugs like fragile peace. He spoke first, words tumbling, therapy, mending family rifts on his terms, a job at a nonprofit coding for queer youth. I ended it wrong, pushed you away to protect something, but it was always real for me. My throat tightened, old wounds aching. Real enough to fight for? He reached across, palm up. I hesitated, then clasped it. Not a contract, but a chance. The rain outside softened to mist, and for the first time in a year, Seattle felt like home. That coffee stretched into hours, the world outside fading to a watercolor blur of pedestrians and headlights slicing the dusk. Wyatt's hand in mine felt foreign yet familiar. Calluses from manual labor gigs he'd taken post-cut-off, a humility that softened his edges. He talked in loops, circling the pain. The intervention in a sterile Marin County hotel, his father's ultimatum delivered over room service steak, his mother's tears that cut deeper than any disownment. I chose me, he said, voice steady for the first time, and lost you in the process. I listened, the barista's chalkboard specials blurring as memories resurfaced. The contract's fine print, the NDA that silenced us both. You didn't lose me, I corrected gently. You let go. His green eyes, dulled by months of what-ifs, sharpened with regret. Teach me how to hold on, then. For real this time. We didn't jump back in. No grand gestures, no tearful montages. Instead, a tentative rhythm. Texts that built like bridges. Walks along the locks at Ballard where salmon leaped upstream, stubborn against the current. He was crashing with a cousin in Fremont. A converted garage with exposed pipes, and a Murphy bed that smelled of motor oil. I visited once, bringing takeout from the halal cart on Aurora, and we ate cross-legged on the floor, knees brushing without pretense. No sex, not yet, just stories swapped like contraband. His about the nonprofit where he built apps for at-risk LGBTQ kids in rural Washington. Mine about the lit mag acceptance that had me floating. Spring quarter pulsed with possibility. My schedule crammed with advanced fiction workshops and a TA gig for freshman comp, but Wyatt carved space in the margins. We'd meet at the Friday farmers market in Wallingford, loading canvas bags with heirloom tomatoes and sourdough, bartering flirtations over samples of goat cheese. You look good, he'd say, casual as the breeze off the canal, but his gaze lingered, tracing the new confidence in my posture, the way I'd stopped hunching like a secret. Doubts lingered, of course. Nights alone, I'd replay the ending. His taillights in the rain, the contract's ashes. Therapy helped unpack it, my counselor. A soft-spoken woman named Lena with a collection of enamel pins on her lanyard, probing gently. What does real look like for you now, Aiden? I'd sketch visions. Equality, not transaction. Vulnerability without the velvet rope of NDAs. Wyatt earned it inch by inch. One evening, after a reading at Elliott Bay Book Company where I debuted a short story laced with our ghosts, he waited in the stacks, a single daisy tucked in his jacket pocket. Plucked from a roadside stand, not some overpriced florist. For the writer who hooked me, he murmured, tucking it behind my ear. The gesture cracked something in me, laughter bubbling up as petals tickled my skin. That night, we wandered to his garage haven, the city humming beyond the thin walls. Conversation flowed to wine from a box. Cheap, authentic, and then to touches. Tentative at first, his fingers mapping the freckles on my collarbone like constellations. When we kissed, it was slow, exploratory, tasting of Merlot and redemption. No rush, no script, just bodies remembering, hearts catching up. Summer junior year tested the fragility. I scored an internship at a small press in Pioneer Square, editing manuscripts that bled with queer narratives, stories of chosen families, reclaimed identities. Wyatt's nonprofit gig intensified. He traveled to Yakima for workshops, returning with tales of teens who'd never heard "It Gets Better" without sarcasm. We'd debrief over picnics in Discovery Park, sprawled on blankets amid madrona trees, the sounds salt tang mixing with sunscreen. But family shadows encroached. A call from his mother, cordial, probing, left him rattled, pacing my tiny studio sublet in Georgetown, all exposed brick and creaky floors. She wants reconciliation. On their terms. His voice hollowed, fists clenched. Dinner in the city. You. Come with. The invitation hung a litmus test. I waited. The old role or a new one? Only if it's us, I said finally. Not the show. He nodded, relief flooding his features. The dinner was at a French bistro in San Francisco. Crisp linens, chandeliers dripping light like honey. His parents. Elena, elegant in pearls, her smile a practiced curve. Richard, broad-shouldered, his handshake firm but eyes appraising. Wyatt held my hand under the table, a quiet anchor, and when conversation veered to futures, he spoke first. Aiden's my partner, in every sense, and I'm building something real code that helps kids like I was. Silence stretched, silverware pausing midair. Elena's fork trembled slightly. Richard cleared his throat. We're adjusting, he said gruffly. But family adapts. It wasn't absolution, but a door cracked. Driving back north at dawn, Golden Gate fading in the rearview, Wyatt exhaled like a man surfacing. "Thank you for being my courage." I squeezed his thigh, the highway unspooling like promise. "We're each other's." Fall senior year ignited with momentum. My thesis, a novel weaving contract love into a tapestry of self-discovery, garnered buzz in workshops, professors urging agents. Wyatt's app launched, beta tested in Seattle's youth shelters, feedback glowing. We moved in together, properly. A one-bedroom in Finney Ridge, sunlight slanting through bay windows onto thrift store rugs and bookshelves groaning under volumes. Domesticity suited us, surprisingly. Mornings, coffee brewed strong, him scrolling code while I journaled at the kitchen island. Evenings, cooking experiments, his paella attempts singed but salvageable, my lobster rolls evoking Maine nostalgia. Sex evolved too, from urgent reunions to languid explorations, bodies fluent in each other's languages of want. Yet conflict brewed, insidious, whispers from his old circle, frat bros turned venture capitalists, eyeing his phase with smirks. A holiday party at a Belltown loft, champagne flutes, venture pitches, and sidelong glances that curdled my stomach. One drunk exec, slurring over oysters, clapped Wyatt's shoulder. "Heard you went rogue, Kane. That your rebound?" Nod to me, laugh like broken glass. Wyatt stiffened, but I beat him to it. "Partner," I corrected coolly, voice carrying. "And yeah, he's thriving without the leash." The room hushed, then chatter resumed, brittle. In the cab home, Wyatt's jaw ticked. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did." I cupped his face, thumbs stroking stubble. "We're done hiding. That fire carried us into winter, but storms gathered." My novel's agent hunt yielded offers. One from a New York imprint hungry for fresh queer voices. Excitement warred with fear, big city, big risks. Wyatt's nonprofit expanded, grants flowing, but with them, pressure. Board meetings, donor schmoozes where old masks tempted. New Year's Eve 2024 marked the contract's ghost anniversary. We celebrated low-key, rooftop in our building with neighbors, fireworks over the sound, his arms around me from behind. 3 years ago, he murmured into my hair, "I signed away my soul. Now, I sign up for forever." Tears pricked, joy sharp as sea air. But January brought the blow. Richard's offer, a prodigal's return. "Come home, son. Lead the division. Bring stability." The subtext screamed, "End the experiment." Wyatt showed me the email, face ashen in our living room's lamplight. "What do? We choose," I said, heart pounding. "Together." He deleted it, fingers shaking. But the seed planted doubt, sprouting in quiet moments. His late nights at the office, my packing boxes for potential NYC scouting trips. February's rain turned torrential, mirroring the deluge inside. A fight erupted over nothing, a forgotten dry cleaning pickup, escalating to everything. "You're pulling away," I accused, voice raw in the kitchen's fluorescent glare. "Chasing ghosts of what could have been." He recoiled, hurt flashing. "And you're halfway out the door to Brooklyn, Aid. What if I can't follow?" The words landed like punches. We slept apart that night, futon versus bed, the wall between us thicker than plaster. Days blurred into avoidance. Polite notes on the fridge, separate grocery runs. Finn intervened, dragging me to a dive in Capitol Hill for whiskeys and wisdom. "Love's not a contract anymore, man. It's a choice, every damn day." His eyes, kind and knowing, cut through the fog. "You choosing." I returned home at midnight, rain sheeting off my jacket. Wyatt was awake, silhouetted in the window, sound churning below. "I'm choosing us," I said, voice steady. "If you are." He turned, tears tracking his cheeks. "I am. God, I am." We collided then, apologies and kisses, bodies reaffirming vows unspoken. The storm passed, but scars remained, reminders to tend the fragile. Spring senior year bloomed tentative, resilient. My novel sold, a modest advance that bought plane tickets to Maine for a signing tour. Wyatt came, meeting my family. Mom's wary hugs thawing over chowder, Dad's gruff nod over beers. "Treat him right, city boy," he rumbled, and Wyatt promised earnest. Graduation loomed, caps and gowns a milestone laced with what next. Commencement under a rare blue sky, diplomas in hand, we posed for photos. Arms linked, futures intertwined. That night, a party at Finn's in a sprawling Fremont warehouse. Music thumping, bodies swaying, confetti like stars. In the crush, Wyatt pulled me aside to the loading dock, city lights sprawling. "Marry me?" Not a question, a plea, ring box simple, silver band etched with coordinates. Our first kiss spot. Tears blurred the skyline. Yes, but joy's peak often precedes the fall. Weeks later, a package arrived. The old contract, reconstructed from backups by some family lawyer. Attached note, last chance. Real money, real life. Wyatt burned it in the sink, flames dancing blue. We're realer, yet the embers smoldered. Summer post-graduation wrapped us in a cocoon of transition, Seattle's long twilight hours stretching like lazy lovers' limbs. The novel's buzz built slowly, a blog mention here, a podcast interview there, while Wyatt's app scaled, partnerships with national orgs pulling him into conference calls that echoed through our Finney Ridge apartment. We honeymooned in miniature. A road trip up the Olympic Peninsula, pitching a tent on Hurricane Ridge where stars blanketed the void, his head on my chest as we named constellations after inside jokes. "That's the great contract," I teased, pointing to Orion's belt. He laughed, low and warm, nipping my earlobe. Burned to ash. Back home, reality nipped at heels. My agent pushed for promo. Readings in Portland, signings in Vancouver. Wyatt's schedule mirrored, travel to DC for funding pitches. We navigated it with lists shared Google Cal, meal preps of quinoa salads and grilled halloumi that tasted of compromise. Intimacy deepened in stolen pockets. Quickies in the shower before dawn flights, slow dances in the living room to Coltrane vinyls he'd scavenged from estate sales. But the proposal's glow dimmed under practical weights. Rings stayed in pockets. Wedding talks deferred to after the dust settles. Family dynamics simmered. My mom's emails brimmed with pride and probing. "When's the date?" And that Wyatt? Solid. While his parents sent quarterly checks, anonymous but unmistakable, laced with invitations to neutral ground dinners. August heat wave baked the city, air conditioners humming like anxious hearts. We escaped to a cabin in the Methow Valley, borrowed from a nonprofit contact, pine-scented isolation where cell service faltered. Days blurred. Hiking goat trails dusted with wildflowers, evenings fly fishing in glassy rivers, lines casting like prayers. One dusk, waders muddied, he reproposed properly. On one knee in the shallows, water lapping ankles, ring glinting in the alpenglow. "Aiden Harper, be my forever. No clauses." I pulled him up, kissing salt from his lips. Always was. The ceremony planning ignited like dry tinder. Small, they agreed, backyard in my mom's Bar Harbor plot, ocean backdrop, guests a mix of college crew and queer kin. Finn as best man, naturally, plotting toasts that balanced roast and reverence. Invites went out. Simple craft paper, seals stamped with salmon silhouettes. September's harvest moon brought the first real test. Wyatt's sister, Lila, the photo leaker, surfaced with an olive branch. A call from her Sausalito loft, voice honeyed over static. "I'm sorry, WI therapy's kicking my ass. Can I come to the wedding?" He hesitated, phone cradled in the kitchen's morning light. I watched from the coffee pot, steam curling like questions. "Your call," I said softly. Forgiveness wasn't mine to grant. He invited her, tentative. She arrived a week later, all designer jeans and tentative smiles, bearing a vintage watch. Dad's old, for the groom. We lunched at a cafe in Fremont, awkward small talk over avocado toasts. Her eyes, mirror to his green, softened when she spoke of her own cracks. A divorce, a reckoning with complicity. I was scared, she admitted, of losing the empire. But family's not that. Wyatt's shoulders eased, a knot loosening. I squeezed his hand under the table, silent ally. October deepened colors. Maples aflame along Aurora Avenue, pumpkins grinning from stoops. My book tour kicked off. A whirlwind of airports and hotel bars. Readings to crowds that swelled from 10 to 50. In Chicago, a panel on queer lit had me spilling truths. Love's not a transaction when it's earned. Back home, Wyatt greeted me at SEA with a sign. Harper. Still hooked, and a bed that welcomed weary bones. But cracks spiderwebbed. Lila's visit unearthed old tapes. Family dinners where slurs slipped casual as salt. Wyatt confided one night, rain lashing windows, head in my lap on the couch. I forgave too quick. What if it's poison? Then we antidote, I murmured, fingers combing his hair. Together. November's chill bit early, frost etching the sound's edges. Wedding prep ramped. Suits tailored in a Belltown shop, vows drafted on napkins over late-night IPAs. Mom flew west for fittings, her embrace fierce. Proud of you, lobsterman's son. Dad tagged along, awkward in khakis, but his toast at our rehearsal dinner. Clumsy words about tides turning. Choked me up. The eve arrived, a soft snow dusting evergreens. Finn hosted the bachelor bash. Low-key bowling in Ballard, strikes celebrated with craft sours, stories swapped till closing. Wyatt and I stumbled home arm in arm, Buzz Light, laughter echoing in the empty streets. In bed, tipsy and tender, he traced my ring finger. Tomorrow you're mine. Always have been, I whispered, sealing it with a kiss that promised eternities. Dawn broke pewter, guests assembling at the cliffside home. Finn in velvet blazer, Miles the barista officiating with a grin, Lila in the front row, eyes misty. Vows exchanged under a driftwood arch, ocean roaring approval, mine halting, his steady. I contract no more. I choose you, Aiden, in every storm. Rings slid on, simple bands warmed by palms. The kiss ignited cheers, salt wind whipping our hair. Reception sprawled on the lawn. Lobster boils, fiddle tunes from a local band, dances barefoot in the grass till stars wheeled overhead. Honeymoon whispered of Hawaii, but reality intruded swift. A week post-vows, Wyatt's phone shattered the idyll. Richard, voice steal over speaker. Congrats, but the board's balking. Your lifestyle's a liability. Step back from the nonprofit or we pull funding. Wyatt's face paled, honeymoon tan fading. We were in a Maui condo, waves crashing below like accusations. It's leverage, he spat, pacing the lanai. Always is. I pulled him down, grounding. We fight or fold? Fight. But doubt shadowed his eyes, a storm brewing. Back in Seattle, the wedding high crashed. Lila mediated a call. Tense, scripted apologies from Elena. Richard's gruff business is business. Funding held, but strings attached. Wyatt's app rebranded, family-friendly tweaks that neutered its edge. He internalized it, withdrawing into code, hours blurring at his desk. I toured remnants, readings in Boise and Spokane, returning to a quiet home. Talk to me, I'd plead over reheated takeout. I'm fine, he'd deflect, kiss my forehead like absolution. December's solstice loomed, holidays a minefield. We opted for neutral. A cabin in the Snoqualmie Pass, trees strung with lights, mulled wine steaming. But tension simmered, his silences longer, touches obligatory. Christmas morning, unwrapping a leather journal from me, he forced enthusiasm, perfect for ideas. That night, by the fire's glow, it erupted. You're not here, I accused, logs popping like gunfire. The wedding was a pause, not a fix. He hurled his mug into the flames, cider hissing. You think I don't know? Every step forward, they yank the rug. And you, off conquering with your book, leaving me to drown. Hurt lands deep. I'm building us too. But I can't drag you. We slept in separate sleeping bags, frost on the windows mirroring the ice between. Dawn brought truces, apologies over instant coffee, a hike through snow-draped firs where hands found each other again. But the fracture widened. New Year's in Seattle. Fireworks from our roof, but his toast rang hollow. To surviving. January thawed the past but not us. My novel hit shelves, launches in indie shops drawing lines, fans clutching copies, sharing stories that echoed ours. Wyatt attended one, clapping from the back, but his smile strained. Post-event, over tie in the U District, he confessed, I'm suffocating, aid. The app's compromised, families chokehold tightening. Quit, I urged. Start fresh. With what? Dreams. Bitterness edged his laugh. February's gray enveloped, Valentine's a quiet dinner at our spot, oysters, candlelight. He gifted a custom keyboard, engraved code for love. I gave poetry chapbook, lines about resilient roots. But in bed after, his body tense, mind elsewhere. March brought the ultimatum disguised as opportunity. Richard's jet to Seattle-Tacoma, a summit in a downtown tower, penthouse views, power suits. Lead the legacy, he pitched over scotch. Marry stability. Aiden understands, surely. Wyatt relayed it later, face carved from stone. He thinks you're the problem. Rage boiled. Fuck him. And you, if you waver. I don't. But the seed sprouted thorny. April showers flooded the sound, mirroring the deluge. Lila visited again, bearing warnings. Dad's desperate, willing to play dirty. We fortified, couples counseling in a Belltown office, sessions peeling layers, his fear of failure, my abandonment scars. Progress flickered, but trust frayed. May's lilacs bloomed defiant. My book tour wrapping with a hometown reading in Bar Harbor. Wyatt joined, but tension crackled. Post-event, seaside walk, he stopped. I can't breathe here. The pressure. It's killing the us. Heart plummeting. I faced him, waves gnashing rocks. Then go. But don't ask me to wait. Silence stretched, eternal. He walked away, back to the rental car, leaving me with salt spray and shattering. The drive back to Seattle post-Bar Harbor was a funeral procession. Miles unspooling under tires that hummed dirges. Wyatt gripped the wheel white-knuckled, jaw set like granite, while I stared out at passing pines, their needles blurring into verdant smears. Words hung unspoken, heavy as the humidity rolling off Penobscot Bay. We'd packed in silence that morning, my mom's concerned glances over breakfast pancakes following us like ghosts. Call if you need, she'd whispered, hugging fierce. The flight from Portland was turbulence incarnate. Drops that mirrored my gut, Wyatt's hand hovering near mine but never landing. Landing in Seattle-Tacoma. Rain greeted like an old foe, slicking runways. Cab to Finney Ridge. Address exchanged in monosyllables, the apartment looming like a tomb. Inside, the space we'd curated. Bookshelves bowed with shared reads, kitchen herbs wilting on the sill, felt accusatory. He dropped his bag by the door, turning with eyes hollowed. Aid. I didn't mean. Save it. My voice cracked, sharper than intended. I retreated to the bedroom, door clicking shut, curling on the bed that still smelled of us. Sleep evaded, thoughts cycling. The wedding's vows now confetti in wind. The proposals ring heavy on my finger like indictment. Dawn filtered gray, coffee brewing automatic. He was at the table when I emerged, mug steaming, face etched with defeat. I love you, but the noise, family work, it's deafening. And I'm the mute button? I poured grounds, spoon clinking accusatory. We vowed through storms, Wyatt. This is one. He rubbed temples, where lines deepening. Storms pass. This is a hurricane. We agreed to space, trial separation, clinical term for hearts in quarantine. He couch-surfed with Finn, who texted me emojis of caution flags. I reclaimed the apartment, airing sheets, scrubbing counters till knuckles raw. Writing stalled. The sequel's outline mocked from corkboard, characters frozen mid-arc. June's solstice sun mocked the gloom, Pride Month parading rainbows while my world grayed. I marched anyway, solo in the sea of flags and glitter, drums thumping solidarity. Finn spotted me, slinging an arm. Wyatt's a mess, man. Talks about you non-stop. Tell him to talk to me, then. But pride swelled hollow, confetti sticking like regrets. Job offers trickled. Adjunct gig at UW, editing role at the press. I took both, structure as scaffold. Evenings. Runs along Green Lake, laps chasing endorphins, water lapping like unanswered questions. Wyatt reached out mid-July, text simple. Coffee? Neutral ground. We met at a cafe in Ballard, locks visible through fogged windows, salmon arcing silver. He looked diminished, shirt hanging looser, stubble shadowing jaw. Therapy solo now, he started, stirring sugar into black. Unpacking the Kane legacy. It's rot, aid. I nodded, latte frothing. And us? Miss you. Every pixel. His hand extended across scarred wood. I took it, pulse sinking. Reconciliation crept cautious. Dinners at neutral spots, walks dissecting dreams. He quit the nonprofit freelance coding for indie queer startups. Small pay, big soul. I shared sequel drafts, his feedback sharp, loving. August heat peaked, city shimmering. We tested waters. A weekend in Leavenworth, Bavarian facades hiding mountain truths. Hiking enchantment lakes, turquoise pools reflecting skies. He stopped at a overlook, breath ragged. I almost lost this. You, kneeling in alpine grass, ring reoffered, not proposal but recommitment. Stay. Tears blurred peaks. Try. Fall reknit threads. Apartment reclaimed jointly. Boxes unpacked like forgiveness. Wedding album arrived. Photos capturing joy's raw edge. Us mid-kiss. Wind-tousled. Eternal. We framed one for the mantle. Vows exchanged. Ocean witness. But scars itched. Lila's wedding invite arrived. Her remarriage. Napa Vineyard. Wyatt wavered. I pushed. Go. Heal the ties. He did. Returning lighter. Tales of truces over vineyard toasts. Richard's health scare followed. Heart murmur. Wake-up call. Prompting a visit sans me. He's trying. Wyatt reported over foe. Small steps. Thanksgiving. Joint family mashup. My mom's turkey beside Elena's charcuterie. Awkward graces, but laughter bubbled. Dad's fishing yarns drawing Richard's nods. Progress, plated. Winter quarter, I adjunct, Wyatt's freelance bloomed. Holidays. Tree trimming to elf, ornaments baubled with memories. New Year's, rooftop again, his toast revised. To thriving. January's frost bit, but warmth grew. Sequel advanced, agent raving. Wyatt's app forked independent, seed funded by allies. Intimacy reignited, bodies relearning, hearts sinking. February's chill thawed in a getaway. Cabin in Olympic rainforest, moss-draped silence. There, amid ferns and fog, we renewed vows, private, pen on paper. No escapes, he wrote. Only us. Spring's thaw mirrored inner melt. Book 2 deal signed, tour planned. Lila's baby announcement bridged gaps. Elena cooed over ultrasounds, thawing permafrost. May's blooms heralded stability. Pride again, arm in arm, floats thumping progress. That night, in our bed, sweat slick and sated, he whispered, "We're the story now." June's longest day, we hosted a recommitment, backyard barbecue, Finn grilling, guests toasting resilience. Rings exchanged anew, simple bands kissed. But July's heat brewed unrest. Richard's legacy talk resurfaced. Board seat, strings invisible. Wyatt confided over beers on the deck. Fireflies winking. Tempting. Security. Jealousy flared. Old. For us. He pulled me close, breath warm. Always. August's fairs buzzed. County grounds alive with Ferris wheels and funnel cake. We wandered arm in arm. Cotton candy sticky sweet. But a call mid-laugh. Elena, voice quaver. Your father's worse. Come home. Wyatt's face drained. Carnival lights harsh. Flight booked dawn, me tagging as anchor. Hospital in Palo Alto. Beep sterile, Richard frail in gown, tube snaking. Son, he rasped, hand trembling. Proud. Of all. Tears fell, Wyatt's shoulders shaking. Elena clutched tissues, Lila hovering. Me, outsider turned family, hand on his back. Richard stabilized, discharged to rehab. We lingered, mending in sterile waiting rooms. Stories swapped, apologies aired. You built better, Richard admitted to Wyatt, eyes clear. Without me. Back north September, changed. Wyatt's freelance pivoted. Consulting for family firm, boundaries firm. My tour launched triumphant, cities blurring, fan stories fueling. October's leaves turned, harvest festivals calling. Pumpkin patch date. Hayrides, his head on my shoulder, world golden. November's chill, Thanksgiving redux. Fuller table, Dad and Richard swapping war stories. Grace's heartfelt. December's lights twinkled, solstice firelit. But a letter arrived. Richard's will addendum, trust reinstated, no strings. Wyatt read aloud, voice thick. He gets it now. New Year's Eve, balcony toast. To legacies rewritten. January's snow dusted, sequel edits flowing. Wyatt's project. App for elder queer care, inspired by Richard's scare. February's love, Valentine's hike. Snowshoes crunching, hearts full. March's thaw, Lila's shower. Co-ed, laughter healing. April showers, renewal vows in rain. Soaked, laughing. May's sun, pride parade lead, banners bold. June's heat, anniversary trip. San Juan's again, tent pitched, stars witnesses. July's blue, family reunion, Bar Harbor, all kin. August's fairs, Ferris top, city lights below, us above. September's equinox, balance found. October's frost, harvest warmth. November's thanks, table full. December's joy, year closing. But January's dawn, a shadow, Wyatt's cough, persistent. Doctor checkup, routine. February's worry, tests ordered. March's wait, results pending. April's blow, early lymphoma, treatable. Wyatt's face, pale, we'll fight. May's chemo, my vigil, hospital gowns, his hand in mine. June's bald head, my kiss on scalp. July's remission whispers. August's clear scans, tears. September's strength, rebuilt. October's leaves, life affirmed. November's grace, deeper. December's lights, brighter. January's new year, unbreakable. The diagnosis landed like a rogue wave, sucking air from the room. Our Finney Ridge kitchen, mid-morning, toast burning forgotten on the stove. Wyatt stared at the printout, oncologist's scrawl indicting. Stage 2 Hodgkin's, aggressive but responsive. His laugh barked hollow, echoing off subway-tiled walls. Of all the plot twists, I sank into the chair beside him, hand finding his knee, anchor in the swell. We'll navigate, I said, voice steadier than my heart's jackhammer. Calls followed. Lena the therapist, Finn for logistics, Elena's flight booked before noon. Richard rallied from rehab, voice gruff over speaker. Cane men don't fold. Treatment blitz. PET scans in sterile tubes, ports implanted under local, chemo cocktails dripping ivy slow in infusion rooms that smelled of antiseptic and despair. First round hit like a freight train. Wyatt retching in the bathroom's marble echo. Me holding hair that would soon fall. "This is bullshit," he gasped, forehead cool against my palm. Nights blurred. Gatorade runs at 3 a.m., broth simmered to silk, episodes of The Crown paused mid-rain for nausea checks. His freelance halted, clients understanding. I juggled adjunct loads, grading papers by his bedside, red pens scratching like talismans. "Read to me," he'd request, voice thinned. My novel's sequel pages turning hope into fiction. Spring's renewal mocked us. Cherry blossoms pink confetti on sidewalks, while Wyatt's energy waned, skin paling to parchment. Wigs tried and discarded. He opted bald, cap askew like a crown of thorns. "Keeps it real," he'd quip, green eyes dimmed but defiant. Family converged. Lila weekly, bearing organic smoothies and baby kicks for distraction. Elena nesting in our guest room, folding linens with military precision. My mom via Zoom, recipes mailed for strength soups. Dad drove up once, silent giant in the waiting room, pressing a worn lobsterman's knife into Wyatt's palm. For cutting through. Finn orchestrated distractions. Movie marathons in the living room, popcorn unbuttered for sensitive stomachs. Miles the barista delivered care packages. Lattes decaf, notes scrawled. Hang tough, Kane. Mid-May, Nadir hit. Counts crashed, isolation protocols locking Wyatt in, me gowned and masked at the glass. His voice over intercom, muffled. "Miss your face, aid." Tears streaked my scrubs. I pressed palm to pain, twin prints. "Miss your snark more." Remission teased by June solstice, scans clearer, port flushed final. Celebration muted. Backyard fire pit, Esmore's charred sweet, toasts to warriors. Wyatt, fuzz regrowing like hopeful stubble, raised his mug. To side quests survived. Summer rebuilt brick by brick. Travel shelved, we nested. Garden plot in the community yard. Tomatoes ripening under his watchful eye. Freelance trickled back, app updates coded from the Adirondack chair. My book tour postponed. I wrote voraciously. Sequel infused with grit, love's tenacity etched in every line. August's heat wave, we escaped to the cabin in Methow, cooler climbs, wildflowers nodding approval. Hiking eased, his stride lengthening, hands steady in mine. One evening, riverbank picnic, he unpacked a box. Letters, penned during infusions. "For when words failed," he said, handing the bundle. I read later by lantern. Raw confessions, fears of leaving me widowed young, gratitudes for every held hand, dreams of gray-haired us on Maine porches. Sobs racked, cathartic. He held me, whole again. Fall's pallet returned Wyatt to work. Non-profit board, cautious. My semester ramped, students' essays on identity mirroring our arc October's harvest, pumpkin spice lattes reclaimed, pride in retrospect via photos. Us mid-parade, unbowed. November's thanks swelled fuller. Richard walked unassisted, carving turkey with Dad's borrowed knife. Elena's grace, soft. "You've given us back our son." December's lights, chemo's shadow long faded. Holiday market strolls, glühwein warm, his arms strong around waist. January's frost, clean slate, scans pristine, energy boundless. Sequel submitted, agent ecstatic. This one's a gut punch triumph. February's love, Valentine's vow renewal, courthouse quick. Then dinner at our bistro, oysters popping like fireworks. March's thaw, Lila's birth. Nephew cradled, Wyatt's eyes misting. Cycle unbroken. April showers, garden bloomed riotous. Zucchini overload, neighbors bribed with pies. May's sun, adjunct tenure track offer. Stability rooted. June's heat, anniversary San Juan's. Kayaks slicing bays, seals barking approval. July's blue, family bar harbor. Richard fishing with dad, lines cast companionable. August's fairs, Ferris kisses under stars. September's equinox, balance honed. October's chill, harvest feasts. November's grace, deeper kinships. December's joy, year gilded. But January's dawn, a ripple. Wyatt's restlessness, old itch. Bigger, he mused over coffee. The app national scale. Support surged, pitches to foundations, my network amplifying. February's pitch deck, nerves electric. Success landed March. Grant massive, team hired. April's expansion, Seattle HQ humble. Loft in Pioneer Square, coders buzzing. May's growth, media hits, queer tech disruptor profiles. June's launch, app viral, downloads spiking, stories pouring, lives touched. July's heat, tour synced, my readings, his panels, duodynamic. August's fairs, booth swarmed. September's balance, home anchor. October's frost, nephew's first steps, Wyatt's hands guiding. November's thanks, table epic. December's lights, empire hours. January's new, horizon vast. Yet February's quiet, a confession. I want kids, aid. Someday. Heart swell. Then we plan. March's talks, adoption seminars, agencies, home studies. April's profiles, waiting lists. May's match. Sibling duo, ages 5 and 7. History's scarred but eyes bright. June's homecoming, chaos joyful. Forts in living rooms, bedtime stories doubled. July's adjustment, tantrums navigated, hugs multiplying. August school starts, backpack stuffed. September's routines, family forged. October's leaves, park piles jumped. November's thanks, smallest hands clasped. December's magic, Santa secrets. January's year, fuller. But growth's shadow, Lila's envy, whispers of taking sides. February's rift, call heated, you're stealing dad. Wyatt's mediation, calm, building bridges, not walls. March's truce, baby brother visits. April's spring, blooms shared. May's pride, kids in wagons, rainbows waved. June's heat, pool days splashed. July's blue, beach Maine, waves conquered. August's fairs, cotton candy smeared. September's school, projects proud. October's chill, costumes crafted. November's feast, tiny toasts. December's snow, first flakes caught. January's dawn, unbreakable weave. The years folded like well-worn pages, each chapter richer for the creases. Our Finney Ridge life expanding into a tapestry of chaos and quiet, the boys' laughter echoing off walls once silent with secrets. Theo, the elder at 7 on arrival, inherited Wyatt's green eyes and a knack for puzzles, assembling Lego empires on the living room floor while quizzing us on how clouds work. Jamie, his shadow at 5, clutched my flannel shirts like talismans, drawing lopsided hearts in crayon on any surface. Fatherhood wasn't scripted. It was improv. Diapers at dawn for Theo's nightmares. Jamie's first school play where he lisped lines about brave knights. Us in the audience, hearts ballooned. Wyatt thrived in the helm of his nonprofit, now a coastal network with outposts in Portland and Vancouver, apps evolving to VR safe spaces for rural queer youth. Board meetings pulled him south occasionally, but homecomings were rituals. Briefcases dropped, ties loosened, diving into tickle wars that left us breathless. My writing career crested. A third novel anchors away, blending memoir and myth, hitting bestseller whispers. Tours balanced with telereadings. allowing PTA nights and soccer sidelines where I'd cheer Theo's goals. Wyatt filming with mock-serious commentary. Family orbits stabilized, eccentric but orbiting. Richard retired to a Carmel cottage, fly fishing with Dad in annual Maine trips. Beards graying in tandem, tales of the one that got away, laced with subtext about wayward sons reclaimed. Elena volunteered at Wyatt's Seattle hub, her socialite polish softening into grant-writing prowess. Lila's family grew, another babe, playdates with our boys turning competitive slide races into truces. Spring 2030 bloomed with milestones. Theo's science fair volcano, baking soda erupting like our early passions. Jamie's swim lessons, doggy paddling toward independence. Pride that year we led afloat. Minivan decked in LED rainbows, kids waving signs. Love levels up. Wyatt's speech, Mike Hot. From contracts to covenants, this is freedom's face. Summer's idol. Road trip to Yellowstone, geysers steaming like old angers vented. Tent sites, Esmores singed, Theo stargazing with app in hand, Wyatt's code mapping constellations. Around the fire, stories circled. My main boyhood traps, his Palo Alto facades, now footnotes to fuller narratives. Fall's rhythm. School buses yellow blurs, harvest festivals where Jamie crowned Pie King with his blueberry lattice. October's chill brought Richard's 60th. Surprise bash in Carmel, us flying south, boys in tiny suits charming aunts. Toasts clinked. To late bloomers, Richard rumbled, arm around Elena, eyes on Wyatt proud. Winter's hush, holidays layered. Hanukkah lax from Lila's in-law, Christmas Eve chowder with Mom, New Year's Eve countdowns with glow sticks and grape juice. That solstice, boys asleep, Wyatt and I on the balcony, sound murmuring below. 10 years since the contract, he mused, arm heavy around me. Best deal I never renegotiated. Kiss slow, enduring. January 2031 dawned crisp. Sequel 4 outlined. Family at core. Wyatt's expansion. DC advocacy. Testifying on youth protections. I tagged for a reading, leaving boys with Finn, now uncle in All But Blood. His theater troupe staging kidlit adaptations. February's frost. Valentine's fort. Blankets draped, popcorn strung, vows whispered amid giggles. March's thaw, adoption anniversary. Cake smashed, photos capturing frosting wars. April's showers, garden wars, Theo's sunflowers towering Jamie's defiant daisies. May's sun, school concerts. Flutes squeaking, our applause thunderous. June's heat, family campout. Tents pitched in backyard, fireflies jarred like captured dreams. July's blue, beach days. Sandcastles fortified, waves body surfed. August fairs, prize hogs ogled, Ferris rides spun. September's equinox, first days. Backpacks heavy, ours heavier with pride. October's leaves, haunted hayrides, ghost stories sanitized for little ears. November's thanks, table groaning, toasts to graphs taken. December's lights, tree trimmed, ornaments accrued, memories baubled. But 2032's spring carried undercurrents. Theo, 9 now, came home tear-streaked. Playground taunt. 2 dads? Weird. Wyatt and I tag team talks, books on families diverse, school counselor looped. You're brave? I told him, hugging fierce. His nod small, but seeds planted. Wyatt's DC trips lengthened. Policy wins bittersweet. Bills passed, but backlash snarling. One night, post-call, he paced. They fight dirty. Threats to funders. Lean on us, I said, pulling him earthward. Counseling resumed. Family edition. Lena guiding constellations of support. Summer salve. Grand Canyon trek. Mules down switchbacks. Boys wide-eyed at vastness. Bigger than secrets, Theo marveled, echoing unspoken. Fall's fortitude. Theo's coming out metaphoric to self, as ally, rainbow pin on backpack. Pride kid contingent swelled. Winter's warmth. Richard's memoir draft shared. Empire of errors. Confessions raw. Wyatt edited. Tears spotting pages. 2033's bloom. Jamie's kindergarten grad. Cap tiny. Theo's soccer championship. Trophy hoisted. Yet June's heat wave crisis crested. Wyatt's ex-colleague. Bitter board oustee. Leaked old contract docs online. Headlines screaming tech heirs sham romance exposed. Trolls swarmed socials. Boys shielded from screens. But Theo glimpsed. Was our family fake? Wyatt's heart cracked audible. Press conference called. Seattle Square. Mike's hot. Us flanked by lawyers. His voice, steel-wrapped velvet. That sham birthed truths. A love that built empires of heart. We're unbreakable. Backlash crested, then ebbed, supporters rallying, app downloads surging. Boys therapy. Drawings of fortresses, us as knights. Fall's Phoenix. Book 5, Clauses of the Heart, memoir veiled, bestseller instant. Tours with Wyatt guesting, panels on redemption. Winter's Hearth. Family therapy closes, bonds burnished. 2034's Spring. Renewal. Move to larger Queen and Victorian. Rooms for growth. Summer's Sojourn. Europe backpack. Paris crepes. Rome ruins. Boys' passports stamped wonder. Fall's Flourish. Theo's published poem. School lit mag. Jamie's piano recital. Keys hammered joy. Winter's Whisper. Richard's passing. Quiet. Sleep's embrace. Funeral Carmel. Eulogies layered. Wyatt's. You taught delay, but arrival. 2035's Dawn. Legacy honored. Foundation in his name. Queer elders housed. Boys Thrive. Theo 12 coding with dad. Jamie 10 writing with me. Pride 2035. Float grander. Legacy led. Anniversary stack. 20 years post-contract. Gala fundraiser. Speeches soaring. Dances dawn lit. Yet in quiet, Wyatt's hand in mine. Everything changed when it ended. Began, really? I nod, heart full. To beginnings disguised as ends. Life's real spins. Storms weathered. Loves deepened. Identities owned. In Seattle's embrace, rain or shine, we choose daily. Truer, bolder, human.